All right, everybody. It is 11 o'clock on May 21st, 2020, and I just wanted to welcome you to the first Let's Talk About It presentation. Um, we are here as members of the C.A.U.S.E celebrating National Prevention Week, and today we are going to be talking about e-cigarettes and vaping. We have two moderators today. Mariah Benson, she is a health educator from the Rock Island County Health Department and a member of the C.A.U.S.E. And then myself, Faith Hardacre, I am a substance use prevention specialist with the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. As we go into today, few housekeeping rules. If you, as you noticed, all of you are muted. So if you have any questions, we would love to hear them. Please put them into the chat box. At the end of the presentation, we will be having a Q&A time to address those questions as well as we can. Oh, sorry. And so that is where I would like you to direct those. Remember that we are a family community-based organization, so that we are indeed keeping everything factual and evidence-based. And so let's dive in. We are the C.A.U.S.E, so the Coalition Advocating for Underage Substance Elimination. And we have been working in Rock Island County since 2013, and we have quite a few different organizations that have come together to start this coalition. We are excited to move forward and to grow and be able to become more involved with this community. And especially, we are excited about our new series, the Let's Talk About series. Today's agenda is pretty straightforward. We're gonna just present some information and have our Q&A. And then the fun part is we are gonna play a Kahoot game at the end of today, where we will have a winner win a $20 Amazon gift card. So that's mainly what we're gonna be going through. And as always, feel free to put questions in the chat box, or we also have our email address listed on the screen as well. This meeting is also being recorded so that it can be shared to those who couldn't be here live today. And so, yeah, all right. We are also celebrating National Prevention Week this week. This is an annual national event or observance. It is sponsored by SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Every third week of May, they take the week to focus on a variety of prevention topics. And this is set up so that when the students are about to go into the summer, that they kind of get that last push or reminder about prevention. We know that from studies that student first use or youth first use of substance tends to happen in the summer because of a variety of environmental reasons. So we are happy to combine our first Let's Talk About with Prevention Week. All right, Mariah, go right ahead.
Okay, I just unmuted myself. So Faith, can you do me a favor and let me know if you can hear me?
I can definitely hear you. Go right ahead.
Great. All right, so first things first, as we move through this presentation, we just want to get your minds thinking a little bit. So we added some true and false questions throughout the presentation. And when these questions appear, you're definitely welcome to enter your answer into the chat box if you would like, or just think of the answer in your head. The purpose is just to get you thinking, to test your knowledge. And we're hoping that you leave this presentation with more knowledge about this topic than when you came in. So let's start with our first question. According to 2018 data, the most commonly used drug by Illinois students is alcohol. So we'll give you a few seconds to think about your answer. All right. So the answer is true. So alcohol is the most commonly used drug by Illinois students. And so this chart shows some data from the Illinois Youth Survey, just showing how the rates are compared between these different drugs. So as you can see, alcohol use is the most common, and expectedly 12th graders have the highest usage rates. So this is just telling us we know that alcohol is an issue, and we can obviously see that other substances are being used too. However, e-cigarette use is on the rise. So rates are way higher than cigarettes, as you can see. and they're pretty similar to marijuana use. So, talking about some usage trends here. The good news is that combustible cigarette use has been declining steadily for decades, and that's for adults and youth. And the top chart that you see here shows that decline. However, the bad news is e-cigarette usage rates have skyrocketed over the past few years. Nationally, there was a 78% increase in e-cigarette use from 2018 to 20 from 2017 to 2018 among youth. So this is where we really started to see this becoming more common. The FDA and American Lung Association have both called e-cigarette use among teenagers an epidemic. So we know this is the problem. And that bottom chart you see there shows data, again from the Illinois Youth Survey, which shows that among youth, the combustible cigarette use is going down, but e-cigarettes are really going up, especially in Illinois. So let's talk a little bit more about what an e-cigarette is, or what an ESD is. An ESD is an electronic smoking device. So really they go by many names, but ESD is a term that's easy to comprehend. You might also hear terms like e-cigarettes, electronic nicotine delivery systems, vapes, vape pen, a tank system, or even mods. So ESDs are often called by their brand names as well, such as Juul. So you could just say, oh, here's my Juul instead of here's my e-cigarette. So notice how the first generation of e-cigarettes were actually made to look almost identical to a combustible cigarette. And that was definitely on purpose. It was just a new and improved cigarette. However, the second and third generations were pretty much the opposite. They were big, bulky, they wanted to have a unique design, and over the years, they have continued to evolve. So let's look here at some more examples. This is what they can look like today. They come in all shapes, all sizes. The structure and design have evolved to become more compact, discreet, and even fashionable. So they come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Some even look like household items, such as pens, flash drives, and even smart watches. Yes, you heard me correct. That is a smart watch, and it has a detachable mouthpiece that is used as a e-cigarette. And then puff bars are kind of new to the market. They actually just started coming out last year. And they're a little different because they are a disposable product. And so you can't refill it or anything like that. It's just something to be used once, and once you go through it, it's discarded. So, thinking of those things, let's do one more true and false question. So, although 68% of school staff had heard of Juul, only 47% could identify a picture of the Juul. True or false? All right, let's find out the answer. So the answer is true. So basically what that tells me is that that name Juul is something that sticks to your mind, and it's something that you might hear about even if you don't know what it looks like. So here in the photo you can see what a Juul looks like. Juul is the most popular brand among youth. One is because of the flavoring, and then second, you can even customize them now. So this is a sleeve that someone put on their Juul of pineapples. So it's kind of like a cute design, and so it's really appealing to teenagers. Juul had always been appealing because of the numerous flavors. They have pretty much any flavor you can think of, from mango to cotton candy to the most popular flavor, which is their mint flavor. However, if you would go onto the Juul website right now and try to purchase a Juul, you can only get a couple flavors. And that's because as of February 6th of 2020, so just a few months ago, the Trump administration issued a partial ban on flavored e-cigarettes. So right now, the only flavors available are menthol and tobacco flavors. So this is good news because the reason why this ban is taking place is to hopefully encourage youth not to use them because they're not going to like the flavors like just a normal tobacco flavor. The problem here is that the ban doesn't cover the disposable products like puff bars that I mentioned. So if you try to buy a puff bar, you can still get over 20 flavors, but regardless, this is a start. So why is it such a big deal that youth are using ESDs? Well, it really comes down to the nicotine concentration. So we have a diagram here that you can see that kind of compares different popular brands of ESDs to cigarettes. And you can see that the nicotine concentration is higher. Juul specifically is known for their nicotine concentration because they were the first company to kind of come out and admit that they wanted to make a product high in nicotine. Actually, their co-founders, according to their website, said that they knew that a true alternative to cigarettes would have to offer a nicotine level higher than any other alternative on the market. And Juul prides itself in their technology, their design, and their out-of-the-box thinking. So before Juul came on the market, the average nicotine concentration at most was about 1.2%. But now the average is up to 5%. So again, you can kind of just see a comparison here in this diagram. There's also nicotine salts that are put into ESDs, into their liquid, and this causes a smoother hit. So pretty much what that means is they have a higher concentration of nicotine. It feels smoother in the body. It hits the bloodstream quicker. So these are appealing to people to kind of feel that buzz better or faster. The problem is that nicotine is really damaging to the developing teenage brain, and you can actually get nicotine poisoning too. So just a few things to look out for. If you know anyone that uses these products and they have like an unexplained illness, nicotine poisoning could cause nausea, vomiting, increased blood pressure, dizziness, anxiety, shallow breathing, and even headache. It's so harmful to our youth because as your brain is developing, up until the age of around 25, nicotine is going to make an impact on your brain development. So, as we probably know, different drugs stimulate the pleasure centers in the brain, and nicotine does that too. So, it mimics dopamine, which is also known as the feel-good hormone. So, when these teenagers or anyone are using nicotine, it makes you feel good, but it also causes changes in your brain that can lead to withdrawal symptoms when you try to quit. And the shocking fact is that most youth don't know that their ESDs even contain nicotine. They think it's just a cool flavor. So they are unknowingly developing an addiction. So apart from the nicotine, many people think that ESDs kind of just have a harmless vapor or harmless aerosol, but studies have actually shown to have many chemicals in the vapor clouds. So you might have passed someone before driving or on the sidewalk and you see that big cloud come out. There are actual chemicals in there. And the bad thing is that many people use these devices indoors or in close proximity to others. So that could be harmful to the smoker, but also people nearby. It seems like everyone knows that combustible cigarettes are dangerous, right? So we've known this for decades. However, with the electronic smoking devices being a newer device, there aren't as many scientific studies out there yet. And so sometimes it is challenging to rebuttal an argument when someone says, oh, well, this is healthier. Well, we don't really know that yet. It's kind of hard to study ESDs. One, because it's not consistent globally. So the US actually allows higher nicotine concentrations in our products compared to places like the UK, where their average is about 18 milligrams per milliliter, and ours is 59 milligrams per milliliter. So it's hard to do a global study on these products. And then also you have to think of some ethical concerns, whereas some people might not want to, dedicate themselves to a study that potentially could be harmful for them. And many of the potential health outcomes may take years, if not decades, to develop. Similar to smoking, a lot of the times people think they're fine and healthy, come to find out decades later they have lung disease or some other issue. One other fact to note is that the Illinois Smoke-Free Air Act which you probably know as the law that makes sure that people can't smoke inside restaurants or places like that. And you're really not supposed to smoke within 15 feet of a building either. This only applies to regular combustible cigarettes, not ESDs. So then I also want to just touch on some health effects, which is one thing we really should be focusing on. And it's something we can point to when people question us and say, well, how do we know these things are really harmful? Well, if you aren't familiar, about last year in 2019, all these people kept coming forward and pretty much saying that they had all these problems and they were hospitalized for different problems. So that was known as the cases of E-Valley or, um, sorry, one second, jumped ahead a little bit. Let's talk about popcorn lung first. So popcorn lung is something that happens to your lungs, and your lungs get really damaged due to diacetyl. And so this was found in cigarettes way back in the day, but now they found it in different e-cigarette liquid. And the FDA also started investigating cases of vaping-related seizures. So what I'm saying here is that these are all potential health effects. And so we say potential as in we've seen this happen, and so there haven't been those long-term studies, but as of right now, this is what we know. So popcorn lung, this could happen because of diacetyl. Seizures had happened, possibly related to vaping. The FDA investigated it, but then that led to E-Valley. So that is what's known as e-cigarette vaping product associated lung injury, or E-Valley for short. So back before COVID-19 happened, and that's pretty much all we're hearing about now, we were hearing about these lung injuries, hospitalizations, and even deaths. So as of earlier this year, February 18th, there were 2,807 cases. Illinois and Texas actually reported the most cases, and this is pretty surprising because we were even beating New York and California. Most recent data showed Illinois having 218 cases with 5 deaths. So they began investigating these lung injuries, the CDC and the FDA, because people wanted to know what specifically is causing this. Is it only a certain type of electronic smoking device? Is it the ones that have THC in them? Well, they found out that vitamin E acetate is strongly linked to E-Valley. So it was found in different product samples and also patient lung fluid samples. So they were really investigating this by testing the patients themselves, but also the products. So the CDC officially declared vitamin E acetate as the primary cause of E-Valley. And so since then, they have recommended not using any product that contains that chemical. This can get challenging because sometimes people buy from third parties or black markets or friends, especially teenagers, so it's sometimes hard to know exactly what is in your product. Additionally, ESDs that contain THC also played a major role in the outbreak. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint the exact cause, but since the CDC announced that these two factors played a role, cases have declined since September. So as of right now, they're not focusing as much on that since they've seen cases begin to decline. But coming back to the COVID-19 topic, it has been suggested that smokers may have a harder time with COVID-19, or they might develop disease that's more severe. They might have heightened symptoms compared to non-smokers. And this, of course, is because smoking impairs lung function, making it harder for the body to fight off that respiratory disease. So finally, we're going to do one more true and false question. So using e-cigarettes is a proven method to help current smokers quit combustible cigarettes. True or false? All right, let's get that answer. So the answer is false. So as of right now, it has not been proven effective in any studies or any long-term studies. It's really only anecdotal right now. So trying to use ESDs to quit cigarettes can lead to dual use. So you might actually be ingesting more nicotine than usual. So what I mean by that is someone, instead of having a pack of cigarettes a day, they might alternate, have one cigarette and then use my ESD and then go back and forth. So really you're ingesting more nicotine than usual, keeping you addicted. And so that can be where it gets really tricky. However, the health department partners with the Illinois Tobacco Quit Line, and actually every single state has a quit line. So if you're listening in from somewhere else, you can call, I believe, 1-800-QUIT now, and they will direct you to your state's quit line. But here's the Illinois number here. And so there are nurses and certified health coaches that pretty much counsel you into a quitting plan, and it's free. So if you know anyone that might want to start quitting and they don't even know where to start, this is a great place to direct them. The quit line doesn't just cover regular cigarettes either. It's any tobacco product or nicotine product. So ESDs or chewing tobacco, and of course regular cigarettes. So the quit line is a very helpful tool and a free resource for people that might be concerned about financially how it would affect them if they try to quit. And again, if you have any questions at all, I know I went through that kind of fast. There's a lot of information out there, but I just want to cover some of the really important health topics and things like that. Please submit your question in the chat and we will circle back to that at the end. But for now, I'm going to hand it back to Faith.
Thank you so much, Mariah, for all that information. All right, we're going to keep going with our presentation, and if it will move forward, there we go. Technology is great when it works. All right, so as we talked about, as Mariah mentioned, with all of those different chemicals being in the cloud and all the different kinds of ESDs out there, we do have to recognize that with all the different modifications that have been made, the way to fill an ESD has also been modified. So some of, with Juul is known for their Juul pods, and the Juul pods themselves are everyone has nicotine. They do not have a nicotine-free product, and they come in a pre-packaged. If you look to the right, you can see they come in these little pre-packaged items, and you don't fill them with a bottle. However, a lot of these other ESDs do have small bottles of just e-liquids. That is where the flavorings come in, where you can go to some of those vape shops and see that they have walls of flavoring so that you can refill your ESD. However, because of that refillable aspect, we have seen that ESDs are no longer just nicotine-based. If somebody is using an ESD near you, they could be using nicotine, they could be using a flavoring, but they could also be having a THC or like a CBD oil inside of their tank. They can actually be using meth. Meth has now been used as been turned into a liquid to be used in an aerosolized form. There's also DMT. K2 or spice has also, like the oils, and has been manufactured into a liquid to be used, and flakka as well. So what comes with that is not only do some people know what they're putting in there, but there are also knockoffs coming into the market. So also, if you look to like the middle right section of that slide, you see 2 Juul boxes, but one of them is actually not a Juul product. So I want you to think of like when you're at the toy store and you know how Legos are like super expensive because they're name brand. But if like down the aisle, there might be this other like building blocks toy, which is compatible with other leading brand building blocks. That's kind of what we have here. We have the actual Juul product is the box that is on the left, but the one on the right has some very small differences and is now being sold like as a Juul product, but it is not. So again, you don't necessarily know what you're getting because there are a lot of knockoffs coming in. And so looking at what chemicals am I even ingesting, that is just coming, that is becoming another layer of this whole issue. All right. The other thing that we are seeing with the ESD use, and especially with youth, is that it is very discreet. It can be hidden very easily, and there are lots of products being manufactured for the purpose of keeping ESDs hidden. So as we look onto the right, we see an inhaler. Inhalers can actually basically be MacGyvered into a way to get your nicotine hit or whatever substance you have inside of it. Same way, there is this company called Vaporware. There are other companies as well, but this is the most popular one right now, that they make book bags and hoodies with the intention of hiding an ESD. So they can connect, say, their Juul or their e-cigarette to like one end, and then instead of a hoodie drawstring, it's actually a lined tube where they can then inhale from their other quote unquote drawstring. Or like how a hydration pack would work if you've ever gone hiking and you have like the water on your back. They have basically that same setup where instead of getting the water, you can also hook it up to an ESD. Also mentioned, we talked about the smartwatch already, and there's also these different phone covers that, again, can hide those smaller items. Another problem we've seen is because the aerosol is so fine, it dissipates very quickly. And so there are some students who have made kind of a game of like, how publicly can I use my ESD without my teacher knowing because it dissipates so quickly? And also where before with combustible cigarettes, there was that very noticeable smoke smell. Now we have these different fruity and sweet flavors. So it's also, again, not as noticeable to our sense of smell that someone in the room might be using. The other, another layer is the battery. So if you look at a combustible cigarette, it's usually about 20 puffs. So if somebody wants to continue their nicotine intake or to continue smoking, they do have to have that slight break to go get another cigarette and then light it and then keep puffing for, again, about 20 puffs. With these batteries, they can last up to like 8 hours. So they can be lasting all day. So especially if a student or anybody is using it in a prolonged fashion, one pod in the Juul is about 200 puffs. So in that case, that's about 10 cigarettes right there. And they could continually just go through that 200 puffs without a break. So it kind of stops that mental break that combustible cigarettes have where you have to mindfully go and start your next cigarette. Here, you can just keep puffing all day long. All right, so our next true or false. Retail stores are the most common source of e-cigarette vaping products for Illinois youth users. All right, this is false. The most popular source for substances, and even for e-cigarette and vaping, are the social sources, so friends. With legislation previously, we had that age limit of 18. So when we would go through and talk with, do the IYS surveys, we could look at our 12th graders. A lot of them were turning 18. So that idea of, it's a little bit easier to access. Recently, we have had this movement called Tobacco 21. So Tobacco 21 is moving that minimum age from 18 to 21. So 21 is now kind of our new magic number for buying any substance, whether it's alcohol, recreational marijuana in certain states, or now tobacco and nicotine products. Chicago had started a localized initiative in 2016. Illinois' Tobacco 21 movement, that became effective this last summer on July 1st, 2019. And then this last December, there was actually a federal movement for it to become national law. On December 20th is when it was signed into action. So right now, it's kind of an interesting sort of limbo time because some states had already made a plan that they're like, you know what, we're going to enact this on January 1st, 2021 or July 1st, 2021 or different things like that. There are other states so far that haven't gotten a plan in place. And then obviously we've had this current public health crisis with the coronavirus. So a lot of legislators are not in office right now to move forth with what their state's legislation is going to be. But for right now, the federal age to be able to buy any tobacco product or nicotine product is 21. So especially in Illinois, that's already been that way since last July, but now it is becoming a federal mandate. All right, so then kind of shifting gears, we had talked about those different substances you can put in an ESD. So our next true and false, CBD oil is safe because labs test the quality and the THC levels. So do you think that is true or false? This is false. So at a lot of different CBD locations or retail locations, they have those signs saying quality guaranteed, lab tested. And that is definitely could be true. We're not saying that everyone is lying, not at all. But we do want to get across that there is no current federal oversight for CBD oil. So there is no way that they can guarantee safety and purity. If you're looking at different vitamins or supplements, say you want to go get some turmeric or you need some like CoQ10 or whatever vitamins you get, you can find these different seals from the USP or the NSF. Those are the different organizations that really do look at purity and safety of supplements. But right now, there is no such thing for CBD. So it could be safe. They could be telling you the truth, but there is nothing mandating or nothing really overseeing their lab testing process. So it's just something to keep in mind as we go ahead and seeing those numbers. All right, next, true or false? Rock Island County students use marijuana at a higher rate than the average Illinois student. This is unfortunately true. So we have seen that Rock Island County students not only use marijuana at a higher rate than Illinois students, but actually on the national level too, if you look into monitoring the future survey. This graph shows you the Illinois Youth Survey, and from 2010 to 2018. We are intrigued at what information we might get in the future now that recreational marijuana has become legal in Illinois. But also this is self-reporting of any marijuana substance. So this could be, again, a liquid, an edible, or a combustible like blunt or cigarette. All right, and another true or false. Currently, meth is the biggest substance problem for law enforcement in the Quad City area. This is actually true. So some of our friends with the National Guard and Counter Drug, they have talked about how meth has become overwhelmingly popular in the Quad Cities recently. And they have said that that is due to many, many reasons. The reason why we wanted to bring this up in our e-cigarette vaping presentation was because we do know that people are actually getting caught with it in their ESDs. So again, it can be vaped with one of those devices versus it just being maybe what we've seen in movies or on TV. What they have seen is that the price has been going down, so the availability has been coming up. What they have seized and tested has become increasingly pure, so it's very, very strong. And also anecdotally, they've talked about how they have, in some of their busts, they have found trash bags full of meth with these huge crystal sizes, where before that wasn't the case. So the actual drug itself is becoming stronger, purer, and more available. And now there's the creativity of different ways to use. So that has become a larger issue as well. So what do we do with all this information that we just gave you? One of the most important things, especially for parents, teachers, caregivers, mentors, youth workers, anybody who is an adult and works with youth, start that conversation. We have seen actually that in Rock Island County, we are below the state average of like kids being able to report, yeah, I remember my parents talking to me about that. The state averages are around that 50 to 52% for alcohol and for marijuana, where we're like in the mid to high 40s. So starting that conversation with your student doesn't have to be a super formal affair. There's the saying of it doesn't have to be a 160-minute speech when 61-minute speeches can do just as well. So that idea of just start a conversation. It doesn't have to be super formal, let's sit down. It can just be in passing. We also encourage you guys to listen non-judgmentally. The more that you create a relationship with your youth or with your student, the more likely they are to be honest, the more likely you can have that really good discussion. Also, if you do find out that your student or your youth has been using a substance, look for the reason why. Very often it is not just a, oh yeah, I jumped in and I really wanted to do X, Y, or Z substance. A lot of times there is a deeper reason why. We have looked into ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, and we know that if somebody has I believe it is a score of 5 or above, that they are like 12 times as likely to start using a substance. So, so that idea of our childhood trauma can actually turn into different choices as an adolescent or an adult, but also our environment, and just a myriad of things. So really looking at the reason why. Is it a cry for help? Is it just a whole list of ideas? With all of that, we do also promote giving grace. So just that idea of, as we listen, as we start that conversation and that dialogue, make sure that you give grace. We know that substance use disorders, they are in the DSM-5. They are a mental illness. They are a mental disorder. So they should be treated in a way that shows that grace, shows that it's an illness. It is not a moral, it's not a moral wrong. It is something that happens to anyone and everyone. It happens across all different sectors. And along with that, no matter whether or not you work with youth or if you yourself are a youth, the more that you learn, as Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better. So learning about the subject, learning the facts, looking into science, looking into studies, seeing what is a myth, seeing what is true, that always helps. And then we always also suggest acting and advocating. So if you see myths being perpetrated, please share the facts that you've learned. If you see someone who is confused or has questions, be that person that they can go to. Even if their question you don't have an answer to, help them maybe find that source or guide them in the correct direction. So with that, we have used a lot of sources in our background, and there we go. And we wanted to pass them along to you as well. So as you saw, we mentioned the Illinois Youth Survey. This is a survey that is taken every 2 years across Illinois for 8th graders, 10th graders, and 12th graders. It is ran by CPRD, the Centers for, I'm going to forget that. I'm so sorry. But the University of Illinois CPRD runs that. And so that happens every 2 years. It happened this spring. NEDA, SAMHSA, and FDA and CDC, all of those being national organizations. The Truth Initiative is a great resource if you're looking for anything that is tobacco or nicotine related. We also pointed out the Quit Line is also a great free resource. And then locally, we obviously have our county health department, and then we have 2 coalitions that work a lot with our tobacco and nicotine issues. So Tobacco Free Quad Cities, as well as the C.A.U.S.E. All right, so Mariah, if you want to unmute, and we will open up for our Q&A session. If you have any questions that we didn't cover or that you want more information about, please feel free to put it into the group chat and we will do our best to answer them for you.
Yes, and I did just want to add one more plug, as Faith mentioned, for our local coalitions. So the cause who's hosting this webinar today, we meet once a month. Right now, we're just meeting virtually. So definitely use this contact info here if you're interested in signing up or joining us. And the Tobacco Free QC Coalition also always welcomes new members, and that coalition meets quarterly instead of monthly. And you can also use this contact information here if you want, as Faith and I are both members of both coalitions. And so feel free to join us either virtually for now or when we resume meetings in the future.
Wonderful, thank you. All right. Anybody have any questions that you would like to ask, or any resources that you would like to be pointed towards? All right. There have been some discussions on various administrator chat rooms about vape detectors for school. Do you have any information on their effectiveness? That is a great question. I do not have any information on that. Mariah, have you heard about vape detectors?
Yes, I don't recall the exact school, but I want to say Orion. There's at least one or two schools locally who have started using them. I know they're very expensive, but I believe one of the schools had gotten them donated or it was grant funded. But from what I have seen, they are very effective. They detect, of course, the vapor that comes out of the e-cigarettes, but then also they even detect loud noise. And so they double as a vape detector and a bullying detector. So the detectors go in places where, people aren't gathering, like the bathroom, for example, where, teachers, administrators, they're not going to be in there. So if a vape is detected, it sends a notice to like the security hub, and then pretty much what they're doing is, instead of rushing into the restroom right away trying to figure out, oh, who's doing that, they use the cameras that are right outside of the bathroom, since there are there are no cameras in the bathroom, and they're pretty much just analyzing video footage and seeing what student went into the bathroom right before the detector went off. And so they're using it that way. From what I know, they are very effective. They're kind of a way to not call someone out, like, and embarrass them in front of the whole class or anything like that, but kind of just focusing more on prevention instead of discipline. So I know that oftentimes they take the vape product away from the student because the student feels obligated, like they just got caught red-handed. So they have to forfeit or forego their ESD. And then I think from there, discipline would be determined later on, but it's kind of just to get the devices out of their hands. Um, if you want, I can send out a web link for one of the local schools, because I know there's a news story on one of the schools locally, and it has a video of the principal and everything kind of explaining how it's worked for them.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information, Mariah. And this, the recording of this presentation will be shared. So if you ever want to come back to this, or in that sense, when we send out things, Mariah, with that link, if we can add that to the email, so that resource is being shared.
Okay.
Are there any other questions before we start our game? Because we still have $20 to give away. All right, going, gone. All right, thank you, Lisa. All right, so we're gonna change gears a little bit. We are gonna be playing a game with Kahoot. So at this time, I want you to either open up a new tab or get out your phones to the Kahoot app. I will be changing the screen in a little bit, and there will be a game pin. You can choose a nickname, but you're gonna want to be able to see this slide as well, because the way that Kahoot works is the questions and the information will be on wherever you're projecting the presentation, and then you'll be able to answer in that other browser or on your phone. So I'm gonna hopefully get technology to work so I can change screens. All righty. Does everybody see the Kahoot.it screen with the game pin? Wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. All right. So yeah, so if you go into Kahoot.it in that tab or browser, or if you're in the app. The everyone is open to participate. There is no age limit on this at all, as long as you have your own nickname and your own device. And the top scorer will end up being our winner for the $20 gift card to Amazon. Give it a few more minutes. We have 9 logged in. All right, just a little bit more. Okay, there we go. We got 11. All right, I'm going to move forward, but the game pin will be in the bottom left. And we will start off with some practice questions. So right now we're going to start with just an informational slide. So again, practicing, you'll be using both slides or both screens. So we're going to start off with no points being awarded. Again, if you didn't sign in yet, but you are still wanting to, or if maybe you get kicked off, down here we see our game pin. So that is where you could sign back in. Oh, there you go. All right, we will be using a mix of true and false questions, multiple choice, and short answer. With the short answer questions, capitalization doesn't matter. However, spelling does. So there's a few that have, like there will be a numerical one that is a question, and you can enter in either the number or the written out word. All right, so let us start. Our first one is just a poll. So what is the best branch of Disney's empire? So if you got to go Disney, you're supporting them. What do you support? Currently, I am wearing a Marvel shirt, so that would be my vote. Wonderful, very cool. So as you saw through that, your device screen came up with the 4 different colors, and that is where you will be putting in your answer. All right. This one is a short answer. What is just a word that describes you? Very nice, very nice. Looks like we have a good group of people together. All right, and our last practice question. This is how just the quiz will work as well. You have a question up here and then choosing your answer in one of those 4. So 2 + 2 × 2. Perfect. We got a smart group. Awesome. So part of this Kahoot game is not only who is correct, but also a speed. So this one we had 0 points awarded because it was a practice question. But as we go along, it won't just be if you got it correct, but it'll be like who put in their answer first. All right, so let's begin. We're going to start off with, what does ESD stand for? Wonderful. Yes. So our ESD is our electronic smoking device. Very good. So to start us off, we see that Julianne is our top competitor at the moment. All right. Combustible cigarette use has been, fill in the blank. It has indeed been decreasing. So we have seen that the combustible cigarette use has been decreasing over the last few decades, and it is now e-cigarette use that is rising. All right, so our current leader, oh, very nice. Julianne and Ben Shapiro are our top two. All right, for this one, you will need to select two, and thus we have doubled the points. So which two of these can be used to vape? Wonderful. Yes. So we've talked about the hoodies and the watches. As of right now, we don't have a shoe that has an ESD, but as we know, sometimes people get creative. But right now we are focusing on the different kinds of apparel and accessories. All right. Shrek 1 has now taken the lead. All right. EVLIs, or e-cigarette vaping associated lung injuries, were linked with what chemical? Very nice. So yes, it is the vitamin E acetate, as they did lung lavages, and they found that that was the most common chemical that was causing those issues. All right, Shrek 1 still in the lead. So this one isn't open-ended, so feel free to type it in. What is the most popular brand of e-cigarette? Very good. Yes, it is our Juul brand. All right. A little bit of shift, but still Shrek 1 is in the lead. Very nice. And we have 3 of our players that have a very nice answer streak. Very well done. All right, true or false? Studies show that e-cigarette use helps combustible cigarette smokers quit. 100% correct. Awesome. All right, that is indeed false. Wonderful job. So as we talked about before, the free resource to use, especially for Illinois, is that Illinois Tobacco Quit line. It is for all tobacco and nicotine products. And they do have some proven methods that are available to help you out. All right, so this is question 14, just a few questions left. The most popular way for students to get those products. Yes. Oh man, I'm so excited. Yes, it is exactly. It is the Friends. 100%. You guys rock. And Shrek 1 still in the lead. All right, open-ended. How old must you be to purchase a tobacco product in Illinois? You can put in the number or write out the word. Very good. So yes, as of recently, you have to be 21. As of July 1st of 2019, Illinois passed Tobacco 21. There we go. 2 questions left. Which of these is a Juul product? So which picture shows a Juul product? Very good. So the Juul is meant to look like a flash drive. It even recharges and looks kind of like a thumb drive. It fits in the palm of a hand. So again, that it is very discreet, very easy to hide, and very easy for students to pass it off as something else. All right, let's see what our most recent scores are. Very nice. And we are going into our last question. What SAMHSA sponsored event are we celebrating this week? We mentioned it at the very beginning. Very good. So yes, this week is National Prevention Week. If you follow the cause, we have been posting different facts throughout the week and will as well tomorrow. All right, so let's see who our winner is. Who is the winner of our $20 gift card? Lisa, congratulations on third. Pam, congratulations on second. And who is first place? Shrek 1. All right, Shrek 1, will you please let us know who you are in the chat box so we can celebrate with you? While Shrek 1 is looking in the, coming to that. Oh, very good. Congratulations, Hope Crone. Very nice. If you would like to email in your email so we can connect with you and give you that e-gift card, that would be great. I'm going to change screens back to our contact information and see if I can turn off the music. There we go. And maybe. Well, sorry, but this is our contact information, just to leave that with you. And before we go, again, we wanted to thank you for your attendance and participation today. We plan on continuing the Let's Talk About series with different subjects such as marijuana, alcohol, mental health, and suicide prevention, and all of that. We also have some upcoming coalition meetings, and we always are looking for sharing information and resources. So again, if you have any questions, we might not know the answers at the beginning, but we would gladly look it up for you or try to point you in the right direction. So again, thank you so much. Oh, and thank you for sending in Hope's email. Awesome. We will connect with you and get that to you as well. So again, thank you very much, and we hope to see you at future webinars. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.